It takes a couple of minutes to sort of load the app. Okay, so welcome everyone. Again, my name is Ted Stevenson, and the presentation is some tips about the CFA exam and how to ace it. And so the agenda for today is an introduction to Aptudo. The webinar is being hosted by Aptudo. Some of you may already have bought the app, or some of you are thinking about using it. So Aptudo is the company that's putting on the webinar. I'm going to give you some introduction to the company. Secondly, we'll talk a little bit about the CFA program. Again, for those of you that are signed up for the December exam, probably some of this will be familiar to you, but for those in the June exam, just some facts about the program that often we get common questions about it. Then the third part really is the meat of the presentation. It's the insights and tips to passing. Some of the tips are from the CFA Institute, and some of them were based on my own experience. About exam preparation, the studying process, tackling the curriculum, some of my personal tips, and getting to know the questions. And then finally, we'll have a bit of a wrap up and a Q&A, and hopefully we'll have some time to answer some questions. If we don't get through it a lot in this session, then we're providing an email address to forward your questions, and we'll respond to you. Okay. So the first thing is the introduction to Aptudo. It's as most of you know, it's an app that right now is available for the level 1 exams, and it's basically a question data bank with 3,000 questions. I think it's going to be close to 4,000 soon. Aptudo is a member of the CFA Institute's Prep Provider program. The main thing here, I think that it's important that it's designed by CFA charter holders. The CEO, Nicholas Cooper, is a CFA charter holder. I'm helping right now look at some of the level 2 content that's going to be available soon. I'm also a CFA charter since 2003. So we understand what's required to pass. And the company right now is based in San Francisco, California. And I guess the message is that the app can help, and I'll talk to you a little bit about this. Of course, it wasn't available when I studied. I wish it was, but it helps you with your study efficiency, engagement, motivation, some of the features, and hopefully the result of that is an increased pass rate. So some of the platform features, first of all, about Aptudo, it's multi-platform. And by the way, it wasn't available when I did the exams, of course, but I've been using it a fair bit recently. I have it loaded on my iPad. I have it loaded on an iPhone. I've used it on my desktop. I have a Samsung phone. I used it through the internet on the Samsung. So Android, I believe, is coming out soon. So I've used the multi-platform, and I'm quite happy because sometimes I just wanted to try out some ethics questions. I can use it on the iPad, sitting on the couch, and don't have to be at my desk. I like that. I like that feature. Some of the other items is the gamified learning. Being someone who's a little bit older than some of you young folks, I was a bit skeptical about that personally, but actually when I got into it, using the practice, I see it's kind of motivating that you get feedback and there's this community notifications, my rankings going up. I do see how it's kind of a motivator, because with the CFA pass rates, what they are, it's kind of competitive. And I found that I'm ranked 44th. I'm going to answer some more questions and get myself up the rankings. So what I was skeptical about at first, I saw the benefit fairly quickly. And as I mentioned, the leaderboards, the messaging, study groups is a neat thing too. I know often it's a solitary process studying the CFA, the hours. It's sometimes good to know people that are in your region. And I checked that functionality. It's easy to search out people in your own city, and people, sometimes they like study groups, sometimes it's a personal choice, but at least that option is out there. So it's a lot of neat functionality that's not typical. I think it's kind of groundbreaking. About me very quickly, my name's Ted Stevenson. I have an MBA from the University of Western Ontario in Canada. I'm Canadian. Graduated in '94. I did the CFA. After my MBA, did the CMA first, actually. And then I wrote the CFA exams in 2001, 2002, and 2003. 2001 and 2 I wrote in Calgary, and 2003 I did in Taiwan actually. I passed all three on my first attempt, so I had some success on the exams. Through hard work, I never finished high school math. I went into it it doesn't matter which level you come into the exam. A lot of it's a function of time and how much effort you put into it. I've worked in the profession. I've worked as a teacher. Right now, I'm a college instructor, and I do things like this. And of course, I've worked in Taiwan, Malaysia, Thailand, Canada, the UAE, and Qatar. So, and I've taught in a lot of these countries as well. Enough about me. Okay, the Aptudo, one of the things that's coming out, it's a new company. The app is new. Level 2 will be available soon. But also for the December 2015 exams, we're looking at doing an intensive boot camp. Boot camps are not a new invention. Many companies for many years put on a 3-day boot camp. It's usually done a month and a half before the exam, and it's kind of a chance to really focus for 3 days and go over information that you've looked at, cover some new stuff, and really just kind of pump you up with enough time to recover from the boot camp to go over and realize, okay, there's a few areas that I need to study. So those are looking to be scheduled towards the end of October, and of course everything will be online. And then in 2016, we're looking at doing weekly classes, which would be typical to the class offerings that you see being offered in classrooms, but of course this is going to be online. Okay. The tentative pricing is $700, $699, but for the boot camp, $1,099 for the online classes. But there's a discount provided at the end of this webinar for people taking the time to log in and get to know more information. Okay, now I'll talk a little bit about the CFA program. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. Most of this information is on the CFA Institute website and in the documents that I've attached. However, I've done these kind of information sessions before, and we always get sort of the same type of questions. So I'll just go over very quickly about the CFA program. The CFA Institute's based in the United States. I guess a defining feature about the CFA is that there's one curriculum global, worldwide, and there's one exam that's done the same day all around the world. Talking about the benefits, really it's the worldwide recognition, as that's one of the points that I mentioned, that I've worked in Taiwan or Malaysia. I was involved in the Taiwan CFA Society. It doesn't matter where you go now, anywhere around the world, there's almost 200,000 charter holders. People in the industry and outside the industry, academics, definitely everyone's heard about the CFA. In the UK, it's been qualified as equal to a master's degree, and that's the level. The one thing, as I mentioned, it's the global community. I've gone to many different networking events or meetings. I do some training here and there. Anytime I've needed a contact as a CFA charter holder, you can go into the database. And I've contacted people out of the blue, and when you see that, oh, someone's a CFA charter holder, there's immediate connection and bond. We've all gone through the same process, and so the global community to me has been the biggest benefit based on my experience, because I've traveled and worked around the world a lot. This is the CFA faxes straight out of from the PDF that I've attached for you. Just very quickly, what do you need how to earn the charter? You must meet one of the following criteria: have the bachelor's degree or be in the final year. Be prepared to take the exams in English. The exams are only in English. My real hats off and admiration for the people that write these exams in their English as a second language. They're hard enough as it is, and I really admire the people that study. You have to have a valid international passport. And then the level 1 exam is offered in June or December. Level 2 is June only, and level 3 is June only. And then to earn the right to use the CFA designation, you need some work experience. Join the CFA Institute, do your ethics annual declarations. Okay. A little bit about the candidate body of knowledge. You can see this this graph here. Level 1 is more dominated by the investment tools, quantitative methods, economics, financial reporting and analysis. You can see that ethics is consistent through all the levels. The word on the street is if you don't pass ethics, you won't pass the exam. That's what we've heard for many, many years. Let's just say that ethics is definitely a key, important part of it. Level 1, you can see this light blue color. That's your investment tools: quant, economics, financial reporting, analysis, and corporate finance. What happens is you move to level 2 and level 3. Well, you can see ethics stays the same, but the investment tools is reduced in level 2 and down to not much here in level 3, where the asset classes, you get this, the introduction in level 1 starts to grow in level 2, a little bit more important in level 3. And then finally, the portfolio management, wealth planning in the darker blue, you don't do too much of it in level 1. You're building up the foundation. You're going from the knowledge and comprehension, level 2, the application, and really it comes together in level 3, especially in the afternoon, which is a all essay, and it's the synthesis and evaluation of putting together the case and the recommendations. Okay. A little bit about the exam. Level 1, of course, is a 3-hour exam. Morning session is 3 hours. The afternoon is 3 hours. So it's a 6-hour exam. There's 240 questions, 120 in the morning, 120 in the afternoon. So for example, if we look here in level 1, economics is 10% of the exam. Well, you know it's 24 questions. It's exactly 12 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon. That's the way it works. So if you do the math, 120 questions in 3 hours, it's about 90 seconds. One of the things I really like about the Aptitudo is that it gives you the feedback when you're doing the questions. What's your average question speed? You'll find that when you're doing the ethics questions, you're answering them a lot quicker than the math. And so one of the tricks is to really take care of your timing on the exam. You don't want to run out of time. In fact, for me, in the afternoon session, if you can leave at 4:30. After 4:30 to 5, you're not allowed to leave. All 3 exams, actually, I left at 4:30. I didn't stay till the 5 o'clock. So if you work on your timing, timing's key. I think the app does a great job of giving you feedback how long it's taking you to answer certain questions, because financial reporting and analysis, some of the questions are longer. They're going to take you more than 90 seconds. Some of them are quicker, and the app gives you feedback. And because you can do the quick quizzes on specific areas, corporate finance, you see, oh, I'm taking longer to answer these type of questions. And the issue is to not panic. You know that some questions take longer to answer than others. Okay. One of this feedback from the exams, this is also straight out of the PDF from the CFA Institute. And the reason why I put this slide in here is that you can see this question here. Please indicate the degree that the questions fairly represented the CFA assigned curriculum. It's over 90%. There's no surprises. There's no secret, this says tips to the CFA exam. There's no real mystery or secrets. Really, there's a big volume of material that takes you a lot of time to get through it. The exam, 90% of people are going to say, yeah, the exam fairly represented the curriculum. There's no real huge surprises if you've put in the time, quite frankly. Okay. The exams were based on learning outcome statements. Yes, 100%. So one of the key things is you've got to get in and understand about the learning outcome statements. If it says calculate, you need to calculate. If it doesn't say calculate, you don't know. You don't have to calculate. And a little bit about the difficulty. I think you can see here that really the majority said that it was as difficult as expected, or less difficult than expected. I'm surprised at, but really 28% said that it's more difficult than expected, but not really. If you put in the 300 hours, if you follow the prescription, you'll say, yeah, it's about as difficult as I expected. It's quite fair. It's quite similar to the content in the it's put out by the CFA Institute. One of the things here, the CFA, for those of you that may not be familiar with how you get your results, you're never given a mark. You're given there's three columns: below 50, between 50 to 70% in the section. There's the 10 sections, and over 70, and then you just receive a pass or fail. So you're not really given oh, I got 75% on the exam. And year by year, what the process is you've got the candidate body of knowledge, which we went through, the 10 topic areas. The exam is made by a council of examiners. Volunteers, CFA member volunteers, CFA Institute members do the grading. I've never participated in the grading, but they have a big session of grading after every exam that I believe is based in the US. And then it's the volunteers and consultants set the standard. What is the minimum passing score for this exam? And then they send it out to the candidates, pass or fail. But you'll know for each of your 10 categories if you scored under 50, between 50 or 70, or over 70. And the goal is really to shoot to be over 70 in all 10 areas, okay? One of the things here, this is again straight from the CFA website, a little bit of a document that's a bit hard to find. I like to put it up here though. You can see it started in 1963 until 2015. Over 2 million people have written the exam, and how many have passed level 3? Close to 200,000 now. You can see most of that growth, 112,000 out of the 193, is really from 2006 to 2015. The 10-year average pass rate is, you can see in terms of the pass rates, it's less than 50% for level 1. The 10-year pass rate has been 42. Historically, it's 46. Level 2, when we move up to level 2, again, it's consistent. More than half are failing. And level 3 usually gets to be a little bit better. So you can see the last 10 years, just over half past level 3. So I guess the statistic is for the people that have passed all 3 levels on first attempt is something like 15% out of this total number. Because you can see from these pass rates, it's not uncommon for people to fail a level. Okay, yeah, so as we said, not everyone passes. And that's in my day when we didn't have the tools and the apps to kind of motivate us, to challenge us. I'm familiar that the pass rates are not high, so I looked at it competitively. If I put in another hour, that's going to give me a little bit more probability, a better chance of maybe answering one more question right versus the person beside me, because one of us is going to go through, one of us is going to fail at 50, at these pass rates. Okay. So now a little bit, that's a bit about the CFA program. So now the part that I enjoy most is some insights and tips based on some of my experience and some stuff from the CFA Institute. None of this is fairly common advice that you'll hear from people that have gone through the process. Okay, so first of all, you've seen this on the website. They used to say 250 hours. Now the magic number seems to be 300. They did a survey, and you can see that level 1, this was the average, 287, level 2, 315, and level 3, 327. I myself for sure put in 300 hours per level. I didn't finish high school math, as I said. Level 1 was tough for me, the quant, some of the statistics, but I got into it, and it's a function of time. What do candidates use to prepare? Yes, the CFA Institute curriculum. And I'm going to say once you get to level 2 and level 3, absolutely 100%, you have to cover all the curriculum without a doubt. The CFA Institute, once you're a candidate, has mock exams. Highly recommend that you do the mock exams. Highly recommend if you can find old mock exams from your friends or family that have done the CFA in the past. But you have to realize that the learning outcome statements change over time to some extent. So some questions on an old mock exam may not be have a learning outcome statement under the current program. You see a large number of people use non-CFA preparatory materials. Back in my day, there was really 2 big companies, Schweitzer and Stala. Schweitzer bought Stala, as you probably know. Now we know there's Wiley and a few other providers. It's definitely You can see the growth of the numbers in the last 10 years. Of course, non-CFA Institute preparatory materials is growing similarly, okay? You can see a new CFA program mobile study app. That's, I think CFA Institute's got something. And of course, AppTudo is a new app, and we've gone through the benefits of that already, the multi-platform, the gaming, the community, etc. So these are Ted's bullets. There's no magic bullet for studying for studying. It's 300 hours. But what you can do from the start is be a little bit more efficient. And one of the things that I said is the way that you study in level 3 when you get to hours 500, 600, 700 is not the same way that you studied when you first started the CFA. So one of the things that I try to do and coach people is say, okay, it was a learning curve for me. When I got to the end of it, these are the things that I was doing to become efficient. Studying's a skill. A lot of people come into this, they haven't studied in a while, they haven't studied for a multiple choice exam in a long time. And there's a lot of kind of exam techniques and tips that you feel you develop over time. But there's no magic bullet. There's no secret. It's really the probability for passing the exams is directly correlated, 100% positive correlation to the amount of hours you put in. And so I always recommend you have to have a detailed time budget. It's not the plan, it's the planning. Everyone comes into it with strengths and weaknesses in different areas. But one of the things that I did, as I said, if it's 300 hours and its economics is 10%, well then as a rough guide, that's 30 hours. And don't feel stressed out after 9 or 10 hours that you're not getting it, that it's difficult, because if you understand your study plan, you reevaluate how you feel at hours 26, 27, 28, you look back and you say, okay, that's fine. So I think for every candidate, you should have a very detailed study plan. If it's 300 hours, well, how many hours is that? How many months am I going to study? How many weeks am I going to study? Well, then how does that translate back to days? Well, during the weekdays, I'm a little bit busier. I'm doing it on the weekends. You really have to have it down to the hour by LOS. And as I said, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but that's the basic plan, that's the framework, and keep track of your progress. And that's one of the things that I like about the app, is it definitely helps you become efficient, because I like the way that you can call up the quizzes. You can do the quick quiz after you've done a reading. You can do the custom tests. You can weight them a little bit harder. You can focus more on the quantitative questions or the theory questions. So depending on how you're feeling, you've got your energy level a little bit lower, then just do some ethics review and do the questions where you don't need to crank out any calculations. And it's all about going forward, going back and reviewing, because there's a huge mountain of stuff. So yeah, that's the point that I said already. The way that you study for level 3s is different. When to take time off work? Well, a lot of people plan to take a week off right before the exam, but that's not what I did. What I did is I always took a week off at the beginning of my process, so that if it's 300 hours and I took a week off and I did 40 hours, then I felt that right out of the gate I was up to 10 or 15% through some of the material. And to me, what that did for me is it motivated me that I feel like I've got some momentum from the beginning. Because if you leave things to the last, guaranteed, everyone knows how it goes. You get busy with work, busy with family. I found to take a big chunk of time at the beginning of the process, build up some momentum, I was more motivated to reach certain milestones. And in fact, for every level, I planned a little bit of holiday, at least a week to 2 weeks off towards the end of April to get away from. I'd stay a little bit on the holiday, but I'd say, okay, I've reached my target, my percentage target. One of the things that I'm going to talk about is there's no need to study the course in sequence. People come into it from different strengths. You just want to always feel that you're making progress day by day, hour by hour. So I'll go into the next. This is kind of an example of how to tackle the curriculum. So for example, for me, quantitative methods was my weakest area because I didn't finish high school math. So I wanted to start with it. I wanted to tackle one of the harder areas, and feel that I got on top of it. So, you know, head first, confront what you don't think is your strongest area, because listen, you'll get, your goal is to pass the test. You'll know you'll get on top of it, and once you've conquered one of your weaker areas, it'll help build your confidence. And then follow that once you've done a bit of hard work with an area that's easy, that's a little bit easier. For me, it was corporate finance. I was working in a large company in the planning department. So then I tackled something. I said, okay, that's great. And then for me, English is my first language, so I did ethics. It's all English. It's just words. It's the CFA in some cases is an English test, subject finance. And so you can see I did something hard, something a little bit easier than just the English. Now I'm a third of the way through. Do accounting. I had my CMA first. Wow, I'm halfway. I'm almost there. Now the portfolio management and equities, which I love the best. It's my favorite area. That's an easy, fairly. I call that an easy 17%. Whoa, I'm at 71% now. All right, I need to put my head down and tackle something that's not the most fun, fixed income derivatives. But hey, once I've done that, I'm there. End with economics and you're done. So you know, it's going to be different for everyone. But my point is here, you know, start with something difficult, and reward yourself with something a little bit easier. Then do something that you think will make you some progress. It doesn't have to be done, you know, study session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Manage your time that you're making progress. And so the key thing is that there's such a huge volume of material. You're going to move forward. You have to continually go and review back, because you won't remember. Okay, I tackled the quant in January. I started my process in January for the June exam. When I get to March, April, I can't remember all the quant. I got to cycle back, and that's why one of the things that I said is by having the LOS, it's 52 pages when you print it out. It's 26 pages double-sided. I always had 3 highlighter pens, pink, yellow, and green, and I use them as my stoplights. That okay, green is fine. I don't need to go back over and study it. Yellow, I'm getting it. I need a little bit more work. And pink, absolutely, I got to go back and check out some of these derivatives calculations. That's another thing I like about the software, is that it's giving me the dashboard, and I can go back and clearly see just from my own little testing. Yeah, I'm strong in portfolio management. It's a green zone. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I've gotten so many ethics questions wrong. Why I haven't read the JIPS in so long? The JIPS is very, very specific. I hadn't reviewed before I started using the app, the JIPS section. I got them all wrong, and the dashboard is giving me that it's all pink. And so that's doing kind of online with an app that I used to do by hand back in the day with a piece of paper and 3 different colored highlighters. So obviously, I think you can teach an old dog a new trick. I like the software. Otherwise, I wouldn't be hosting this webinar. Okay, and the other thing is that you can go back, you can review back. I can come back and do some practice problems. I can call up a quiz on that area. In the old days, we just had paper, old mock exams, or we'd have some practice exams. It was a little bit harder to go back and choose, oh, I only want to do questions on quant. I want to just go back and review the economics. I think technology now has made that process a lot easier. Okay, so now getting down to kind of the nitty-gritty for those of you that haven't studied or haven't started studying. This is a key point to make right up front, is that you have to look at the LOS, the Learning Outcome Statement, when you're starting a study session. That's the first thing I do. Okay, I'm going to start corporate finance. In fact, I'm teaching corporate finance in Dubai tomorrow night, by the way, in the Knowledge Village. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look, okay, that's study session 11, readings 35 to 40. Okay, I'm going to look at the learning outcomes, and then first I'm going to look, does it say describe? If it says describe, I know that the type of question is going to be, it's an English language test. I don't have to do any calculations. Anytime I see where I have to calculate, I'm going to highlight it, calculate it, calculate it, calculate. Calculate, interpret net present value. I'm going to highlight that I need to do a calculation. I always highlight where I need to calculate. So I start by looking, what do I need to do in this reading? Then if you're using review notes, fine. We saw from the CFA facts that a lot of people, especially for level 1, are relying more heavily on the review notes than the curriculum. As I said, you have to rely on the curriculum in level 2, level 3, but level 1, people can get away with the review notes. So look at the LOS, then do the review notes. I recommend highly that I did all the CFA Institute readings. Then right after you've done the reading, practice the questions. Do it while you do it right when you're fresh. And when you get an answer wrong, go back to the review notes or go back to the text and say, okay, where is that? Because as you saw from those statistics, the exam is fair. 90% of the respondents say, yeah, it's the questions were based on the LOS. So you do the practice problem, you got it wrong, you go back, you find which LOS was that, where was it in the reading. The universe for questions is not infinite. Once you've seen something once, you can spin it this way or spin it that way. But really, you're going to find that, again, as a function of time, yeah, I've seen this question, and I've seen the way that they flip it, and now I'm seeing it again. So as I always say to candidates, fool me once, shame on you. And for sure, I was never getting questions right the first time. I was always being fooled. But fool me twice, shame on me. So you have to do as many practice problems as possible, because then you start to see, honestly, I showed up for level 2 exam, and so much of it you say, yeah, I've seen this. Yeah, this is fair. This is exactly the way that I've seen it in the curriculum, and it's the way that I've practiced it. But that takes time, okay? Some of the tips, yeah, as I said, you got to use the CFA readings 100% for level 2 and level 3. Level 1, that's I personally recommend it. I know everyone's not doing it. Study aids, one of the things, as I said, question banks. Aptudo is a great one, but it doesn't have to be an either-or decision. Back in the old days, there wasn't much choice. Now there is more choice. I think there's strengths and weaknesses to each. I've told you some of the things that I think which is great about the Aptudo, but these things complement each other. The more time that you have, and the more money that you have, it doesn't have to be an either or. I'm using this. This is all that I'm using. I think some of these products, like the videos, I think the videos from maybe this one company is great. I'm using his videos. I've gotten access to them. I'm using the QBank from here. I'm using the Aptudo because I have to commute a lot, and I like being able to do questions from the iPad. So you have to find what's working best for you in terms of, but at the end of the day, it's all about the efficiency, what you're using when, and what's giving you the best bang for your time dollar, okay? So some of my tips, be comfortable with your calculator, absolutely. Back in my day, there was no YouTube videos. Now I see there are some. You've got to, speed is a skill gets rewarded. You've got to be fast on your calculator. You got to be comfortable on it, okay? That becomes, I think the quantitative questions, I didn't finish math. I hate it. By the end of level 3, I love the quantitative questions because I know they're black and white. If I know it and I've done the calculation, I can see I have no doubt I've got the answer right. Whether other versus the least likely, most likely, where sometimes it's economics, which was my undergraduate major, I feel like I'm guessing on half the questions because I'm not sure which one is most likely or least likely. And for me, it was getting really good on the calculator. Read each question carefully. You have to slow down. One of the things when I started, of course, everyone reads the questions way too fast. And what really always tripped me up was the least likely when it's in the negative. So one of the things that I do for its least likely or most likely is you write down it's true or false. If it's true, then it's most likely. If it's false, it's least likely. Long questions, you'll know that the CFA, the exams are written by CFA charter holders. They're designed so that not everyone's going to pass. The questions are challenging. Some of the questions are super long to read. So one of the tips that you'll find is that, hey, I'm going to have to read the answer anyhow. I'm going to I see a long question. I'm going to read the answers first and then go back and start to read, and you know what you're looking for already. And sometimes you don't have to read the whole question, or you know you're filtering out a lot of the red herring information. Sometimes you're not exactly sure, but obviously you eliminate the, oh yeah, I know for sure that's wrong. I know that's for, get it down to the 1 or 2. Answer all questions. There's no penalty for getting questions wrong. As I said, you've got to manage your time. That wasn't a problem for me. I'm sort of type A, super fast. But managing your time, the more you practice, the more you get comfortable with how you are in terms of managing your time. One of the things, don't do all the math in your head when it says most likely to increase the ratio or least likely to make the ratio better or worse. There's a lot of questions like that in the accounting. I would always just sit down and make a little hypothetical, turn it into a quantitative question for myself using tens, ones, and hundreds or thousands. And I say, okay, 10 over 1 is 10, 10 over 2 is 5. Oh yeah, obviously it went down. I know that sounds simple, but when your adrenaline is pumping, when you're in the heat of the moment, doing all calculations in your head and saying, yeah, I know that when the questions are put to you, most likely, least likely, is difficult, make little examples. You can skip questions and go back. Calm your nerves by starting with your best. I really felt that in the afternoon sessions, they always start with some really, really tough questions. Stay focused and avoid distractions. Scout the exam location. I had a close friend in Taiwan that went to the wrong address. He had to wait a year to rewrite the exam. Wake up the same time all week, because if you're a nighttime person and like to sleep in, when you wake up and have to show up to that exam time, you may be tired. And I said exercise and sleep well. Being rested is really the key. I think all the studies show that a rested brain works best. Okay. In terms of the question format, there's two basic formats that are used: sentence completion and questions with 3 unique choices. All questions are of equal weighting. Okay. All right. So just give me a pause here. Just check. Okay. Just going to skip over this in the interest of time. So we can see sentence completion. One of the things I just want to show you here, and this is getting back to my tip on calculator time, is that here, this is from one of the old mock exams, by the way. I think it was the 2010 mock exam. And you can see that in this question, it's an accounting question. The cash conversion cycle in days is closest to what? And they've given you the number of days receivable, inventory, and payables. So this is a calculation question. It's from the accounting section. And you can see that the solution is quite easy. That to do the cash conversion cycle, it's simply the number of days of inventory plus the number of days of receivables minus the days of payables. So that is clearly not, if you know the formula, that it's this plus that minus that. And by the way, you can see this was straight out of the a mock exam. That's not going to take you 90 seconds. However, here's the same question, okay, asking about the cash conversion cycle, but they've given you all kinds of different data here: sales, cost of goods sold, interest expense, cash and marketable accounts receivable. Boy, this is a 90-second question. It might even be over 90 seconds, because what's happening here is you have to do all these sub-calculations. And with the CFA, the more practice that you do on the questions, you'll see there's some questions that I have to do 2 or 3 sub-calculations. And this gets to my point that the more you practice, the better you are at doing the sub-calculations. The more you practice with your calculator, the quicker you get. Speed is a skill. Skill gets rewarded. I think, of course, and it comes back to the question bank, doing as many questions as possible. I like the calculation. I call these low-hanging fruit. You should be able to solve this and get it right. It's not difficult. But what happens with some candidates, they say, oh, geez, this is going to take me too long. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to guess. And really, my message is that through practice, through time, this type of question should be an easy one. It should be the one you like, because you say, oh, I know these ratios. I know how to do the calculations fairly quickly. I know there's a fair bit to the sub-calculation, but if I crank it out, I know I'm going to have the right answer. Okay. All right. So those are some of my tips to passing. Probably you've heard some of this advice before from many people. I think one of the areas that I'm a little bit different is perhaps in terms of my strategy for time off, and recommending that take time off at the beginning and build up some momentum. Not doing everything in order, doing something that may be difficult at first, reward it with something easier, having a very, very strong, tight time budget and study budget. So with that, I guess we'll wrap it up into a little bit of the Q&A. I can see right now I'm at 6:44, so that's I think we're right about on time. I've done about 40 minutes of this. So let's just wrap it up. So yeah, what's the summary? The concepts are not difficult. Honestly, one of the things I say, listen, this is level 1. Okay, we saw that doesn't have a huge pass rate. A lot of people fail. A lot of people sign up for it and don't put in the commitment that's really required. But really, my message to students, candidates all the time is, hey, if you're going to get to the end of this, if your goal is to be a CFA charter holder, you're going to look back on level 1, say most of that stuff was pretty easy actually. So you have to set your sights that this is not hard. It's not difficult. There's just a huge volume that I need to wade myself through. Thousands of pages of writings, 300 hours of studying, 3,000 practice questions or more. It's a function of time. But actually, if you break it down reading by reading, I show sometimes, let's just look at these 10 learning outcomes. Is that hard? No, that wasn't hard. But that took us an hour. And then we have to do that again and again and again. Take a planned and systematic approach to your studying. You have to set it up as a process. Sit down, look at the LOS, go through the review of the reading, start to do my questions, go back, why did I get it wrong, move forward. Okay, I've studied now for a couple of weeks. I need to go back and recycle some old. It's a process. It's quite structured. It's CFA specific. And really, again, the question practice is the key to passing, in my opinion, because don't expect to get questions right. Don't even have expectations of getting everything right the first. You learn from making your mistakes. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not getting this right. I'm not getting this right. Because as I said, if you put in enough time, you've made all the mistakes that you can make. And my God, I made them all, you know, but at a certain point, there's no more mistakes to be made. You learn from all your mistakes. I've got it. You can't fool me anymore. And it's really, I find it through the question practice that forces you to go back and say, why don't I understand? I understand it, but I don't understand how it's being asked. And I've known a lot of candidates that are really smart. They've had all the education, the background. They're finding the content easy, but they're not mastering the exam multiple choice techniques part of it, and they're getting fooled by how the question is being phrased, or they're spending way too much time. Okay, so now we're talking a little bit about wrapping up the Aptitudo high failure rate. You want to pass on your first attempt. Then what do you need to do? Giving you some of the tips. Aptitudo is offering some products and services to try to help you. So again, they've mentioned that there's going to be a 3-day boot camp. Target pricing is around $700, but if you've signed up for these webinars, there'll probably be more webinars, that it's going to be $500. Now, I've done boot camps, by the way. I've done boot camps. Why are they expensive when you attend in person? I've attended them for level 1. I went to one in Toronto many years ago, and I've also been the instructor at boot camps. When they're put on at a hotel, the facilities are expensive, lunch is provided, et cetera, et cetera. And this is why I'm really interested. I think online Aptitudo is one of the really. I'm familiar with the training that's been available Middle East, Asia, North America. Really, this is at the forefront of trying to do some stuff online. And I think it's going to be a great experience because we don't have any facilities, so we don't have any overhead. We can offer a product to students at a good price. And I think what will take some learning from myself and from the students is kind of the interaction. How do we interact? Because in a class, I get to know the personalities. I get to know people's strengths and weaknesses. You can shout out a question. There will be some adjustment to do things online versus how things are done in the classroom. But I think the benefits are you don't have to travel. In some cities, you have to get to the class. So anyhow, we're going to try that. And in 2016, we're going to try the weekly classes, and special pricing on that. It's going to include the platform, and we're developing the materials that will be included for that. So question time now. I'm going to try to open it up to some questions. And by the way, if we don't answer a question tonight, then You can go to the Aptudo website, and there's an email address, learn@aptudo.com. Send your questions, likely forwarded to myself, and we'll try to get back to you. Okay. So let me just now, if someone, I guess if you raise your hand, what I can do is unmute your mic. I see a couple of people raising their hands. Just one second here. I see the hand, or you can ask I can go to the section here where it says questions. Just one second, because I saw some hands were raised, but then they went down. Okay, just one second here. Okay, Roland Cheng, let's just see, just one second. Yeah, okay, hi Roland, I've unmuted your mic now. Do you have a question for the... Try to hear. Let's have a look, just one second. Okay, just one second. I've got some, okay, well, I'll bring up the question pane. I brought up the question pane. Are the LOS covered in the app? Yes, definitely. Every question is designed. I'm just going to start from the bottom as they came in. This was from Cisret. Apologies if I don't pronounce the name perfectly. Castrati. Are the LOS covered in the app? Yes. That's why the question bank is so huge. Each reading, there's a reading, there's an LOS, there's a question for, there's more than one question for every LOS. And that's why in some cases you can go back and redo. So the app, okay, there's a question where I need to calculate. I've got it wrong. I can call up another one. So that the questions have to follow all the readings, all the LOS, everything has to be covered. CFA curriculum has so many formulas. Any tips in effectively remembering them? Yeah, for sure. I give tips on this all the time. CFA is a big memorization exercise. And one of the things that I do is I write them out by hand and write it out, tear it up, throw it away. Write it out, throw it away. Write it out, throw it away. I write out it becomes the muscle memory. I know, okay, I know the formula for variance, x minus x bar over n minus 1, you know, the sum of. Okay, for the standard deviation, it's the square root. I've written it out so many times because at the beginning of the exam, there's no, you're not given scrap paper, but there's no, once they say you may begin the exam, there's no rule against you writing out your formulas. So one of the things I do is just write them out again and again and again and again. So again, because once you get in there and the adrenaline's flowing, it's very hard to remember certain formulas. So most of them you can more or less remember, but the ones that you're struggling with, write them out again and again and again. And when you get into the beginning of the exam, write it down on the front page, because when it's 2.5 hours later and you're tired and you're feeling spent, you got that question and you're trying to remember that formula, you can say, man, am I glad that I wrote it out at the beginning of the exam? There it is. Now I'm just going to write it out again and I'm going to plug in the numbers. Bam, I'm done. That it's really, there's a lot of memorization exercise that you need to do. You'll know that some companies have always offered flashcards. I used to make my own flashcards. So I would write out formulas, make little LOSs, especially if they're calculations, into a flashcard, and I would flash and review them at the end of a study session and just go over them again and again. So that's a good question and a key point. There's so many formulas, you have to memorize them, and you do it, yeah, it's just practice. Okay, I have one question here. Student from engineering background, yes, that's common. Extremely interested, yes. I have a friend that was doing his PhD in physics and now became, went into quant in finance and made a killing. So engineering into finance, we see that. Mathematics into finance, we see that. What is your, well, this one's asking about what are the chances of getting a good interview? Well, I don't know about the job market, but definitely it says after qualifying level 1. Listen, I showed you from the statistics that more than 2 million people have written level 1. And sometimes I've seen people put on their CV, candidate, if you're really young, it's great to be writing that you've passed level 1. But from my point of view, your chances get better and better the further you go, because so many people have written level 1. So many people have passed level 1. You can go back to that slide and look at the statistics. But really, your worth in the job market increases the further you go with it. So you really should have from my opinion, the goal that I want to do this. Level 1's not that hard. I need to put in the time. I'm going to do it again and again. See, 2.1 million people have written the exams, 1.5 million in the last 10 years. So there's a lot of people, and in the last 10 years, you've got over 300,000 people have passed level 1. So passing level 1 is not quite the cachet of going the whole way. The tips in regards, someone said, can you please explain again the tips in regards to most and least likely? Yeah, okay, they like to ask a lot of most and least likely. Well, if it's least likely, then the answer is going to be false, okay? It's going to be F. If it's most likely, it's going to be true. So there's always three, under the multiple choice, there's always 3 choices. So if you look at you read the question, and then you look at the solution, you say, is that true? Yeah, that's true. I'm going to write a T beside it. Is that one true? Yeah, that one's true. That one is false. Then I look, okay, the question's asked me the least likely. What's the false one? So in this case, I would have TTF. And so if it's looking for the least likely, it's the false. Now, if I'm looking for the most likely, it's going to be the true. So it'd be true, false, false. So turn the multiple choice questions into true or false, and then choose the false for the least likely and choose the true for the most likely. Because you get so tired, you get so confused, and you're going to find that you're going to get questions wrong in the QBank. You're going to go back and say, I knew that. Oh, I read the question too quickly. Oh, I was thinking in the inverse. So little tips like that, turning all the multiple choice or least likely, most likely into true or false. Boy, does that ever save you from making stupid mistakes, okay? Discount code, well, we'll get to that at the end. I think you can just send an email. I see the name. We have a record of who attended to it. Oh yeah, by the way, just want to, says, hi Mike. Listen, my name's Ted Stevenson. I know the Aptudo, the staff that organized the webs, set it up. His name's Mike Wright, but of course I'm Ted Stevenson. He scheduled the webinar, so apologies for that. But anyway, it says, how is the app better than Kaplan or Wiley study packages? Will there be study notes along with the question bank? No, there's no study notes right now. And this app is a complement, and that's why I said it's no either or. I know the Kaplan, the issue with the Kaplan question bank, it's great. And as I said, it's not a question of either or. They've got a big question bank. But one of the features is it's not multi-platform. You've got to have that CD-ROM, as far as I remember. You're tied to your desktop. It's not multi-platform. You can't study on your iPad. You can't study on your phone. If some of these issues, like making a community, finding out who's in your city that is also studying, they don't have that functionality. The feedback in terms of how am I doing in certain areas, in terms of how quickly I'm answering the questions, you don't have that functionality. So as I said, I'm definitely not the person to say this is better than that. If you've got time, I'm not so familiar with Wiley. They've just gotten into the game more heavily in the last 5 years. It's really up to you. There's strengths and weaknesses to everything. What I like about the QBank, it's great for going back and reviewing, picking up, looking at questions. I want to focus just on this area. Yeah, Kaplan, the QBank has that a little bit. But again, I think I would never bash another product. I think that there's strengths and weaknesses to all. The more that you complement and put together what's right for you, the better you'll do. But it's a question of using your time efficiently. Okay. Hi, tips for people who never had quants till now. Yeah, I never had quants. I never finished high school math, as I said. I like to remind people that. Now I love to teach the quant. It just takes time. You have to just settle down and realize that this is going to be difficult, and I'm going to have to spend some time. And how I'm going to feel 25 or 30 hours that I've budgeted is going to be a lot different than in my first 2, 3, 10, 15 hours where I'm feeling very overwhelmed and stressed by it. And as I said, I became the non-math guy to the math lover because it's so clear, crystal clear. Yeah, I know this is right. I'm so confident that this is right. I love level 2 that was kind of heavily quant in the morning, and it just takes time. It absolutely takes time. Ted, only the answers chosen marked will be judged, and not any. No, there's no deductions for wrong approaches. No, not at all. It's just the that's why if you're running out of time, just pick B, pick B, pick B, pick B. You've got a 33% chance of getting it right, right? There's no deductions for wrong answers. Ted, thanks a lot for sharing your techniques. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Can we only read Kaplan for CFA? Okay, this is from a gentleman named Marcel. Okay, I said that. I've seen it work for people for level 1. For level 2 and 3, that's a very, very dangerous road to go down, and I absolutely can't counsel people to not rely on just study notes for level 2 and 3. You can see the pass rates are low. So, okay, we've weeded out the people in level 1. Now we're in level 2. Bam, more than half are going to fail. And I 100%. And listen, I just had a meeting with a guy who's a CFA trainer right now with PwC, great guy. And he failed level 3. No shame in that. And the reason why, because we were talking about this seminar and my tips. So absolutely, he didn't read all the CFA Institute readings for level 3. He failed, learned his lesson, went back, had to wait a year. Study notes are great for level 1. They help you in that efficiency. But really, my advice is go back to the Institute readings at the end of your review mode, at the end of doing 5 or 6 questions, because I know they're heavy right now. I'm going through the level 2 readings because I'm helping go through the Aptudo questions, and it's heavy. The readings are heavy. They're a lot easier to look at after you've gone through like a Schweitzer review. I've done a few questions on the QBank. I've done a few Aptudos. I've made a few mistakes. Now I'm going to go back and look at the reading. It's so much more clear. Okay. Can we write on the question paper? Yeah, 100% you can write on the question paper. You can mark it up. That's what I said. One of the first things that I did is just crank out all my formulas. Just get it out right at the beginning of the morning and beginning of the afternoon, so that when it came to, when I needed that formula, I'd go back, write it again against the question, and fill it in, write it down. Don't do everything in your head, okay? Any particular books to start for with the quants? I don't know. If you're asking, I need to prime up before I get into it. I didn't really do anything. I just struggled through the CFA curriculum. I didn't get, okay, here's an introductory to statistics. I'll start with that from a university book. I just got into it and struggled with it. I know that was tough. Can we write on the question paper? Yeah, I've got that question again. Yes, thanks. Okay. Level 2 for launching Aptudo for level 2. Yeah, it's soon. Will you be? We're right now. The questions are written. I'm going through right now the process of some quality control, making some suggestions to make them better. Okay. And I don't know the exact timeline for them to be coming out, but it's 100%. It's going to be for the June 2016 exam, but in terms of the exact week or month that they're coming out soon, listen, most people need to start studying at the beginning of January as far as I'm concerned for the June exam. I always started in January. So we're in September now, October, November, December. I'd say you're going to see the level 2 Aptudo out before the end of the year. Okay. I'm registered for the December exam when I get my ticket and find out okay, that one, Brendan, there's a question from Brendan about finding out the exact location of the ticket. That's a question you got to ask for the CFA Institute. That's a great one. And by the way, it's a 100% true story. My friend Peter in Taiwan went to the wrong exam location. I wrote level 3 in Taiwan, and there's 2 universities with the same name. He went to the wrong one. He had to wait a year to rewrite it. So in Calgary, I wrote at the Saddle Dome. In Taiwan, I didn't know. I went 3 days before the exam, scouted out exactly, confirm. This is where I'm going to be writing it. And by the way, I didn't mention in one of the small things. That was I wore the same shirt for all 3 exams. I ate the same lunch because I brought my own lunch. I listened to the same music on my headset before the exam, during lunch, and it was all about staying focused. You're allowed to bring in your own pen. I carried my own Lucky pen. You've got to stay focused, and part of that is being relaxed and not trying to scramble and find out things like the exact location of the exam. Get all that out of the way. You don't want any stress or distractions when it comes to exam day. Is it true that a pass mark is 75%? No, you'll hear, good question, Raveen. You'll hear all these kind of rumors on these. By the way, I guess when I finished my level 3, the internet was invented in 2003, so there was an analyst forum, which and there's all these things that are debated on the internet about the true pass rate. Honestly, that's why I went through the slide and said they don't release. They said this is there's not a mark. But the common knowledge or the common assumption would be is that you want to be scoring over 70 in all of the areas. But that's not true. My level 3, I wasn't over 70 in all areas. I think level 1 I was over 70 in all except for economics. So you can be below 70 in 1 or 2. They determine what the passing rate is for that exam. But it's not true that the passing mark is 75%. No, that's not right. Would the app have mock exams as well? Yes. I mean, in the app, you can put together, you can make your own mock exam because you can put together with the app 120 questions and have them as per the CFA weighting, and that's going to give you a mock exam. Okay. Some tips for passing level 1. Here's from, okay, pronounce the name. Please give some tips for passing level 1 by studying for only 2 months. Aha, full-time studying break from work. Yeah, again, okay, here's my tip. It's 300 hours. So you're taking 2 months. So I'm going to take my calculator. I'm going to divide 300 divided by 2 months. I'm going to divide that by 4 weeks. I've got 37.5 hours per week. I'm going to break that into 7 days. I need to study 5 hours a day every single day. If I miss a day, that's got to be 10 hours the next day. So you could study in a compressed period of time. It's going to come down to hours, and I think that's going to be a lot of pressure. You're putting in 40-hour work weeks. Okay. Okay. Here's one from Shivendra. Okay, please. All right. I'll pass that on. I know Nicholas very well. We're speaking weekly. And Shivendra, I've noted your question, and I'll pass that along. I've gotten now to the end of the questions. Is there just 1 second here? If there's anyone else that has any other questions, I wasn't really successful in unmuting anyone or talking to anyone. I'd just like to say thank you. We've had quite a few people sign up. Not everyone. I know software will probably be going to be doing more of these. Okay, someone's asking about the discount. I don't have the discount code right here in front of me. So what you want to do is just send a message that you're on the call. This call has been recorded. We have the names of who obviously logged in. So if you say you were on the call and you give your name, then for sure we'll be able to work that out. So I want to thank you for taking your time. This is the first one that we've done, by the way, my first webinar on the subject for Aptudo. Won't be the only one, I guarantee it. I want to wish you best of luck in your studies, and hopefully you see some value in using Aptudo. Hopefully you might see some value in terms of the boot camp or the online classes. I think one of the things that for now it's been a website and app, what we're doing through these webinars is we want people to get to know the company a little bit more, and the people that are working with it, and put a bit of a human face. So I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that I've given you some advice, some tips or tricks to get you started in the right direction. Okay. I have one. You just finished economics. Am I okay? Yeah. You'll be fine. Put in the time. Break it down. As I said, I did the CFA a little bit older, so I'd already done my MBA, but I wasn't strong quant. Definitely. I was first licensed, so everyone comes in different strengths and weaknesses. I was a qualified accountant, but in fact, the accounting is very CFA specific. I hadn't done all that work on the leases. And so even though people come into it with an accounting background, there's no real advantage. And as I said, I think if you're successful and you're successful in level 2, you put in the hours, you look back in level 1, you say, wow, that wasn't so bad. In fact, maybe I'd like to teach it. Okay, I think we're almost done then. So thanks again, and keep in touch. You send your messages through the website, and there's a way of reaching you. Anyhow, if you go on LinkedIn these days, the world's so connected. You have my name. If you Google search my name and those letters, I kind of pop up. Okay. So thanks for joining us, and stay in touch. Thank you. Yeah, 7 o'clock. So that's an hour right on schedule. So thanks, guys. Take care. Stay in touch.